All right, what is up, basketball fans? Welcome to technically the first edition of the ELU Times podcast. This is your host, Harold McBasketball, as always. And today we have a very special guest,
Very special.
NBA champion,
Yes.
first timer,
Yes.
Paul Coudray.
Yes. It's me.
Welcome to the pod.
I'm here. It's an honor. I've been waiting for my invite. It's here. And I'm ready to talk ball.
Yeah, we're talking big time basketball. We're going straight to the NBA, so this is not going to be a fantasy special. But before we get going on the NBA season, near the end of that, maybe a little bit of playoff talk. Any words about the Frogs' finish to the season and their first championship?
I mean, it was special. It felt like a weight lifted off my shoulders. It felt like the Horses era was never going to end. And, shout out to Stone, great opponent. Shout out to Cena, great semifinal opponent. Shout out to the whole league. But it felt good. It feels like I won't have to go as hard in future years. Of course, I'll still dedicate myself to the league. But, I've been wanting it bad. And I can't wait for that trophy to show up on my front doorstep. And I'll take a big swig of Coke Zero out of it. So
There was a lot of speculation that, once the Frogs had gotten their championship, that, owner, manager, Paul Coudray was going to step down.
yeah,
Is that still going to happen, or are you going to put those rumors to bed?
I think I needed a bit of attention when I said that, but I don't know. The league does take up a lot of my bandwidth, and I'll just be thinking about it way too much. So, we'll see. But I'll definitely be here next year to repeat, and I'll probably tease that I'll leave again. I don't know. I just like to tease. We'll see, though. I could see myself in a few years, We'll see. But I'm here to stay for the near future, the foreseeable future. So, sorry.
Awesome. Yeah, well, I know the league is stoked to hear that the Frogs are going to be sticking around. Also noted that Zach did not get a shout out when you're listing off your prospective opponents in the playoffs, so that's got to hurt a little bit. But
yeah, sorry, Zach, but that was I don't know. Zach didn't put up too much of a fight. But peace and love, Zach.
Peace and love. All right, well, without further ado,
shout out Zach.
Let's we don't need to shout out Zach too much. All right, let's get into the actual NBA season. Enough fantasy talk. We're gonna be doing award shows for this one, so running through the most meaningful awards. We're also gonna do our All NBA teams, which should be fun. Possibly could be slightly contested. We'll see. We also have not shared either of our lists, so we'll kind of see how much stuff we actually have matching up there. But let's start with the MVP. So, Paul, would you like to talk about your selections here and who you ended up going with?
Okay, so I'll start by saying that Embiid seems to be getting a fair share of the it's his time. He kind of has the narrative going for him. But going through the statistics, and there's some recency bias. He's had a monster, past month or so. But I don't think the statistics necessarily favor him over Giannis or Jokic.
Ooh, I like it.
So, I do like a bit of narrative. I like a bit of storyline there, and it would be nice to see him get the MVP. But I don't super buy into it's his to win because he hasn't earned it or hasn't had it yet. So, out of he's not the points per 36 leader. That would be Giannis. Jokic out rebounds him, out assists him. So I guess it's not Embiid in my eyes.
Ooh, I like that, and I will say I do think a lot of the voters in the media really got carried away when Daryl Morey was like, "You don't know ball if you're not voting for Joel Embiid for MVP," and then everyone was like, "Oh shit! I think I know ball. Daryl Morey definitely knows ball. Now I have to vote for MVP." And like
That's
overnight, the Vegas odds switched from Jokic to Embiid.
I
So
think
that's
I
also
know
something I'm
you.
parsing through, trying to figure out,
I think I fell
who
into
really is
that
most
trap.
worthy.
I might have fallen into that trap. There might be a message out there saying that I think Embiid could be the MVP. I got a bit into.
Uh,
I was like, I know ball, Maury. Fuck you, I know ball. It's Embiid.
Everyone scour the chat.
But doing my research, I think I'm just gonna rip the Band-Aid off and say I think Jokic had the most impressive season, and if I had a ballot, I think he might be the one I put down. And I wouldn't be mad if Embiid or Giannis. I mean, all three monster seasons, but Jokic, I mean, fucking hell. I mean, just the field goal percentage, the 3-point percentage. He's the lowest usage, the highest net rating. Uh,
Yeah, and as always, he's first in all advanced stats. So offensive, box score, plus minus, defensive,
it's
VORP.
all
If you're into the VORPs and shorts, Jokic is definitely your guy.
for sure. And I think there's a case for Giannis. I mean, he's the better defender, probably the better team. He rebounds at a higher rate. He fucking 35 points per 36 versus 26 for Jokic. But crazy usage, the better record, obviously. But yeah, man, Jokic 69 games played to Embiid 66 to Giannis's 63, and just the advanced stats just look beautiful. And yeah, fuck it, Jokic is my MVP, and I say that a bit regrettably because I'd be happy for any of the three to win. I think Tatum is outside of the conversation, but yeah,
I
Jokic, his stats stand out the most.
I, I like that you gave Tatum a mini shout out.
Mini
Tatum
shout
was
out.
my MVP pretty much until the last month of the season. And I thought he was super under the radar as
Wow.
the best player in the league, just because the Celtics were the best team and his
Yeah.
defensive efficiency was insane. He was playing every game. Offensive efficiency was also great, but he kind of did his classic Jason Tatum, fell off a little bit at the end of like the year, that last month. And then you saw like the Bucks pass them the standings, so you no longer have the talking point of this is the best team in the league and he's the best player on it. So he kind of fell down my list a little bit after that, but I really thought it was his award for a little while and really wanted to give it to him. It's
Yeah.
it's kind of a weird year for MVP because I feel like you can kind of like poke holes in everybody's case because like with Tatum, he had a slow finish to the year. My issue with Jokic is the Nuggets had a little bit of a rough stretch to where they went from being like the best team in the league, and I was like, oh my god, it has to be Jokic. They're the best team in the league right now. It's his best season. This has got to be his award. And they fell off where they're the fourth best team now, and they're also
Yeah.
in a dramatically weaker West Conference to where I almost feel like the award has to come from the East because it's just so much more difficult of a conference to play in. Um, Giannis, I thought had a good case as well. The Bucks are the best team in the league. But they were doing great things without him. It felt like he missed a lot of time.
Yeah.
It also felt like he was taking like a little bit too many threes every time I watched him. Like he just like didn't feel as dominant in the paint as usual. So it felt a little bit weird giving him the award. So I almost do default to Embiid, which I hate to say because I really wanted to fight Daryl Morey there and be like, I'm not giving him the award just because you say so. But Monster finished the season where like the Sixers really climbed the standings, which was nice to see. Although his uh, although his advanced stats aren't quite as good as Jokic's, they're damn close, which is like pretty impressive considering that Jokic just stuffs the stats. He averages
Yeah.
nearly a triple double at center, which is insane. So Embiid is pretty close there. Um, and you can just like see his defensive impact. Like weirdly somehow, I don't know how this happens to the numbers where like Jokic's defensive efficiency is always like top in the league just from a guy like watching ball, Zach Lowe talking line here, but you can kind of tell like Jokic is not the best defender in the league. It's just like pretty obvious. And I forget who wrote about it recently. Um, it was someone though I think for ESPN, and they were saying that Jokic is letting up the highest percent of field goals at the rim than any other starting center in the league. So it's like all the other the
Mm.
advanced stats that Jokic is good. That's one of those stats that I think pretty easy like pokes holes in that argument. So I think from what Embiid is doing on defense, I think he's also leading the league in points per game right now. I think all that together just kind of gives him the award, and it's a little bit by default. But he's had a great season, so that's gonna be my pick.
Yeah, and he finished the season off in a monster way with like the 50-point performance against
Yeah, and,
Boston.
and I always hate like the little bit of like hindsight bias that always comes in, or say like I don't know, almost like nearsight, where it's like the last like 2 weeks, whoever kind of ends the season on the hottest stretch is what sticks in every voter's mind. But it does matter a little bit. Like if you end the season on a really cold spell like Tatum, or if you finish the season super strong like Embiid, it just matters. So I'm gonna
Yeah,
give it to Embiid. And I'd say the only other thing that I would say against Jokic is also the storylines do matter. And it feels a little weird giving him his third straight MVP when
it
the
does.
team hasn't accomplished like a whole lot. Like if you're getting like your third straight MVP, like I would like to see you. I don't know. I feel like it almost puts you in like the Michael Jordan LeBron conversation, and I just don't see Jokic being there yet unless they can figure out a way to do more in the postseason. I know it's a regular season award, but it's my vote, so I'm gonna add that wrinkle to it.
I think that's fair. And narrative does come into play often. I mean, the MVP is not, yeah, narrative comes into play. Like Westbrook winning it that one year. I mean, maybe he was kind of deserving, but he was inefficient and his team sucked. But he was averaging a triple double. It was his time. Harden, when it was his time, he won it. And it kind of just it feels like it's Embiid's time, and he's an incredible player. People fear him. He's really increased his scoring, his efficiency. Like the guy is far from undeserving. So and he finished the season strong, but he pussied out of the Jokic matchup that one time.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that that was also one of those other things that just pissed me off so much because it's one of those things that he was giving me all the reasons in the world to try to yank this trophy away from him, and I just
That's
wish somebody had a slightly better argument
such a
because
strong.
I so badly wanted to give it to anybody else, but at the end of the day, I feel like everybody had an argument against them. And even like taking away points in certain places, I felt like Embiid still had the strongest argument.
Yeah, yeah, and he would be my runner up. I mean, Giannis, his numbers are beautiful, but his start to the season was weird. He was quite inefficient. Uh, he missed a stretch of games, and I still think he's probably the best player in the league, but it doesn't feel like it's right to award him the MVP this year. So I think Jokic would be my first place, and Embiid just behind. But Jokic's numbers just really look better than Embiid's, but I'm happy to play the
Yeah,
narrative of him.
yeah, I certainly will not fault you picking Jokic. Like his numbers are great. Every year they're always spectacular. Also, the Nuggets' best season with him, so I think that's a fine pick.
This is a complete aside, but Embiid Sixers. I have a little asterisk here because I just saw this stat when I was looking at the Sixers stats. Guess what max he shot from 3-point range? Shout out to a frog right there. Guess what his
Oh
3-point
God,
percentage was? I
I
don't
mean
know. It's
that makes me think it was really good. I'm gonna say 40%.
45.
That's actually insane. That's like I mean, and obviously it's not the same volume as
Actually,
Curry, but
double
that's
check.
like yeah, that's beyond elite.
Actually, my percentage is okay. I might have just lied.
Fact
Um,
checking yourself.
yeah, because I said it out loud and I was like, wait a second, let's just fact check, fact check.
Let's see what we got here.
Okay, before you
I got Max. Yeah, 43%. 43% is still like beyond elite. Not
I
quite
still
Curry,
think
but like
Harden
close.
should.
Curry's like 45, but I can't imagine there are too many people, shooting, this kind of volume who are at 43%. So yeah, shout out to
Yeah,
him. One of the best shooters in the league.
Maxi, he would be my fifth place MVP.
Fifth place MVP. All right. Well,
After
now that we're talking about maxing the MVP conversation, that tells me it's time to move on.
yeah,
So
no transition.
we're doing all NBA next just because it's my next favorite topic. And I think there's tons of wiggle room here, whereas some of the other awards might be a little more cut and dry. So without further ado, let's give me like your mortal locks on the All NBA first team, like those guys that you know that I also have on my list, and then we'll kind of have fun on those spots that I think are a little more up for grabs.
Okay. So I think the mortal locks are the forwards, which would be Tatum and Giannis.
Yep.
And I think that's as far as it goes. I mean, I think SGA is borderline a mortal lock, but I think
Also on my first team.
there's some wiggle room there. And then I had Jokic, but I mean, it's so unfair that you have to choose between Jokic and Embiid. Like, I flip a coin. I mean, I put Jokic.
Yeah, I put Embiid, of course, he's my MVP. But yeah, flip a coin.
Yeah, flip
Both
a
should
coin.
probably be on the first team. And I know with the new players agreement that it's going to be positionless moving forward. So in the future, they will be both eligible for first team. But this year, I can't do it on my ballot, so I chose Embiid. But that makes sense. So that leaves one more open spot on your first team. Who'd you
Should
put
we
there?
say it on three? One,
Okay,
two, three. Donovan
Luca.
Mitchell.
Ooh,
The frog and a
ooh.
horse.
Yeah,
Who would
there
have
you go.
thought?
There you go. Maybe a little bit of bias here.
I think a bit of bias. I'll admit I think a little bit of bias came in, and that might be a bit of foreshadowing. But
Yeah, Mitchell's on
Luca
my
was on
second
it, and I
team.
crossed him out, and I was like, "Fuck it, Mitchell, man, he reinvigorated the Cavs. Luca didn't make the playoffs. Fuck him, whiny little Serbian. I think that's where he's from.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a great argument. I think it's pretty easy to make the argument to put Mitch there. Like Mitch has had such a good season. He had that
Yeah,
71 point performance, which was amazing. Cavs are
Ooh.
super good. His defense
200
was also
funny
really
point
good, really slept on.
fantasy.
I think he's very worthy. I kind of chose Luca just because the counting stats were still amazing for him.
Insane.
And I was like, this guy was like in the MVP race until things kind of fell off the rails after the Kyrie trade. But, all in all, I still thought his season was incredible. So I was like, I'm going to put him on first team. But if you want to make the argument for Mitchell first team, Luca's second team, like I think that's fine.
Crazy because like first half, 3/4 of the season, Luca was like I don't know,
Oh
like
yeah, oh yeah. Like when I
fantasy
remember when
number
the Houston
one.
Horses drafted him, he was the top guy. I think he went into the season as the Vegas number one odds for the MVP. And
Yeah,
he was pretty much there until the Kyrie trade. Like it felt like his award for a while when they were like the fifth seed and his counting stats were crazy. And he was coming off like that like 60, 20, 10 game. Like he was the
yeah.
MVP at that point in the season and then just yeah, the Mavs just fell off and it sucks to see. But sometimes it happens. So, fell out the MVP conversation, but I still thought he was good enough to make the first team.
I kind of enjoyed their downfall. I wouldn't say it sucks to see, but
It
so
it, it did it did make for great content.
he did make my second team. So there he
All
is.
right,
He's
yeah,
my
yeah. Okay.
second
Give me
team
give me your
lock.
second team now. Kind of start off again with who you think is. It's a little bit harder to say someone's a lock for the second team, but who kind of your top guys are, and we'll see what we have in common here.
Maybe obviously you have Jokic, I have Embiid.
Yeah, yeah.
You
We
have,
know the center spots.
I assume you have Mitch, I have Luca.
Yep,
I wouldn't be surprised if the other three we have the same. I think these guys, I'm pretty confident in my picks that Fox at the other guard
yep. Got
is
him.
well deserving, and then Jalen Brown and Jimmy Advanced Stats Butler deserve the two other forward spots.
Interesting.
What do we think? Okay, I didn't expect that.
I do also have Jalen Brown. I think he was an easy lock.
Shout
Very
out.
deserving.
Get that bag.
His stats are amazing. He's having an incredible season. Celtics have been incredible. My last spot on this team though is not Jimmy buckets. It's LeBron, and
Oh,
I even had Jimmy Butler in my list of quote guys who I don't want to hear about,
okay.
and this list
I'll
includes
mention him again.
includes Kawhi Leonard, Paul George, Steph Curry, Jimmy Butler, Kevin Durant. A lot of them just because like the games played weren't there or slow parts of the season,
That kind of
but
sounds like a list that LeBron would be a part of.
yeah, but LeBron is one of those guys who I'm willing to grandfather in as just like one of the best ever.
Okay.
Um,
Steph
you
Curry
know,
doesn't.
No, because not only did like Steph Curry miss a lot of games, but I just didn't find it to be a very impressive Steph Curry season. Like the
Yeah.
Warriors really felt like they struggled. The whole season I thought LeBron was really killing it, and like the Lakers had the slow start, but they finished the season so strong, which was amazing to see. LeBron was looking incredible. He was doing everything all over the floor.
Yeah.
I thought it was really impressive. I thought he kept that entire Lakers team afloat, especially with Anthony Davis missing a lot of time and the team being all over the place, pre and post deadline. Yeah, and Jimmy Butler's someone who, I've heard a lot in the media how great of a season he was having, but like his stats didn't really wow me. And I know the advanced stats will go crazy because he makes so many free throws, but the Heat kind of had a bad season. Like the Heat were not good this year, and I was like, I don't really think he earned a spot there. And then they got killed by the Hawks, and I was like, yeah, go figure. Like they kind of suck this year. I thought there were a lot of guys who were more worthy than Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, I'm kind of taking a second look now. Butler, for once, his games played weren't atrocious, and then I think
That is true.
I was a bit convinced by the advanced stats, and then no other forwards super stood out. I'll just say it out front. I didn't put LeBron on my second or third team, or my first, obviously. I kind
Yeah,
of put him in that category with Steph and the other unmentionables, but. I don't know. I thought it wasn't a super efficient season. The Lakers kind of started heating up without him, but he did keep them afloat, and he had some memorable performances. And like I think he does deserve to be grandfathered in to some extent. And probably could replace a guy on my third team, but I left him off. I think might be a bit of bias and hater in me, but that's
yeah.
my thing.
Usually, I'm not a big fan of grandfathering. I kind of did it for LeBron. I've just liked his season more so than anything else.
Yeah.
And grandfather is like one of the things that I hate when I hear in the media because like a lot of people are like, oh yeah, like Steph Curry has to make one of your teams this year, just because he's Steph Curry. I'm like, that's not a good enough reason, especially when the All NBA teams are determining people's contracts. Like it's going to determine whether people are eligible for the supermax or not.
Which
So
is
you
the
can't just
stupidest thing.
grandfather in Steph Curry. Like you have to give it to those who are most worthy.
Yeah,
Agreed. Also, it's very stupid that it determines people's contracts.
insane. It's voted by a bunch of
Yeah, it's
like
just
the
like the
writer
media,
of
and they're
the Utah Jazz fucking blog. Like why is he voting?
yeah, only guy who voted for Walker Kessler for Rookie of the Year, who I
Yes,
actually do like,
literally what I'm talking
but
about. Like, okay, who is this guy?
so
Oh, Salt
stupid.
Lake Tribune. I'm like,
Yeah, yeah,
okay,
big surprise, big surprise. All right, well, because we mentioned that, fuck it, let's just do a quick segue to Rookie of the Year then, and then we'll
we
do
won't do
our
our third
All
team
NBA
though.
13s. Wait, we'll segue back to 13s. My
Yeah, fuck
podcast, I
that.
call the
Rookie of the
shots.
year is quick.
Yeah, who'd you have?
So I had Paolo, and obviously, J Dub, Jalen Williams, first rostered by the Frogs, then abandoned, then picked up by Tim, future future champion, I think. Shout out Tim.
Yeah,
Let's take a
yeah.
moment for Tim. But I regrettably dropped Jalen Williams. Monster end of the season, but yeah, no, I think it was Paolo's award. Like he carried his team all season, immediately the primary ball handler, the primary playmaker. Like J Dub was averaging like 20 minutes like for the first half of the season. Awesome end to the season. Dude's incredible, far more efficient second half of the season than Paolo, but it's rookie of the year, not rookie of the fucking post all-star or whatever.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. People love saying, yeah, you can't forget about the first 2 months of the season. Which is funny because like if there's ever a reward to be more lenient with that, it would be Rookie of the Year, since just like not all these rookies even really get the chance to play the first month or two.
Right.
Um,
It sucks for
yeah,
Jalen.
I agree. I also had Paulo just because Paulo was legitimately an amazing player this season. His efficiency sucked so bad. Just don't look at his efficiency, please, because it will disgust you.
I'll ignore
But he
him.
passes the eye test. He was doing so much for a Magic team that, one would expect to be terrible. But ended up not being too bad, towards the end of the stretch. So I also went with Paulo. But I funny enough, I thought like J Dub, had like a little bit of a chance. Really more so Walker Kessler did. Like his advanced stats were insane. So like people who love the advanced stats, like he was like not only was he the most efficient rookie, but he was like one of the better defensive players overall for the league. I think he was like second in block percentage this year or something like that. And he had like
Wow.
several games of like 7+ blocks, which is ridiculous. Because I don't think anyone else had more than like one or two of those games.
I think he super deserves his credit because he's playing next to Giddy, who's an insane, playmaker and ball handler, as well as Shea, who's like now this fucking bona fide superstar. Like for him to find his role and to find his way and be efficient, like that's maybe in a way harder than Paolo just kind of jumping in and being, given the ropes immediately and but
Yeah. Yeah, and
yeah,
Kessler legitimately anchored down, a Utah defense and the entire team was supposed to be awful this year, and their defense was not bad, which is like kind of awesome considering that was just on the back of their rookie center, which is insane that he was a part of that Gobert deal. Because I think
oh,
right now most teams would take Kessler over Gobert straight up. And they
yeah.
also included, legitimately good role players in Malik Beasley and Jared Vanderbilt and 4 first-round picks, I think. So disaster trade. Side note, we can do, trade evaluations at the end of the season. But let's get back to All NBA third team. I think that makes sense. Paulo, Rookie of the Year. But special shout out to J Dub and
Super
to Walker
special.
Kessler.
Who knows if Jalen Williams was on the Magic,
J Dub had great
Paolo was
efficiency
on the
too.
Jazz? Who
Yeah.
knows? J Dub is
Yeah.
special, and I think he maybe had an extra year of college on Paolo, maybe an extra two, but
Yeah, the Thunder are looking super good right now. Their future's so
oh,
bright.
I love it.
All right, give
Okay,
me your third team. Which is,
okay,
and I feel like mine is super spicy, and I could totally be convinced to put in other players, but these are just like the
right.
dudes I went with.
My
I think from
three,
who's left, I think there should be at least two mortal locks, and then like
yeah.
three open spots.
So I'm gonna assume that Mortal Lock A is Saboner.
Of course. And like once this is positionless, like Saboner could have been second, maybe even first team.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, no, he deserves his flowers. Monster season,
So
obviously.
goddamn good, and he averaged 7 assists a game this season, which is ridiculous.
Yeah,
Like he's like such a complete player now, and weirdly, like the Halliburton trade feels pretty even now. It still felt super weird trading someone who was legitimately already a superstar in their second season. Like teams just don't do that. It doesn't make any sense. But like the Kings are the 3 seed now. Like I don't know. I can't hate on it, and I love Sabonis. So
Sabonis is that good, and like there were a few seasons on the Pacers that I think kind of get forgotten in a way, but the guy is like
yeah, so easy to forget Indiana.
he's a
But yeah,
monster.
he's legitimately the third best center in the league, and by like a big margin. Like there's like Embiid, Jokic, then Sabonis, and then there's like nobody else who's like really in the discussion to be in the top three, at least compared to those guys.
Alperen Sengun, but
He's someday, but not there yet.
okay. My other mortal lock is Lillard. I don't want to call it
Mine
a
as well.
mortal lock
Yeah, and
because
especially because it's like fuck you for not playing like the last 15 games to be the Tank Blazers. I hate the Tank Blazers. I hate that team so much.
like
And
congrats, man. You're like it's so
and it's
corny.
it's such a great reason to keep him off the team to be like you like legitimately sat out the end of the season. Like why would you be like in the All NBA
I
third team? But he was
I don't
also
like
like legit.
it.
But he was also like legitimately like the best player in the league for the last 2 months that he had played.
Yeah.
So I was willing to squeeze him onto the third team. But if someone wants to give me an argument not to, like I'll take it. I just wish Halliburton played more. I would have gave it to Halliburton, but he also sat out at the end of the season.
There was kind of that narrative of like, can you blame Lillard? His team like forced him to sit out at gunpoint at the end of the season. It's
Yeah,
like
I like
he wanted to
look.
sit.
Yeah,
He wanted
absolutely.
to.
It's no coincidence that like he stopped sitting on the exact like last game that he was
Yeah.
eligible for like certain awards. Like no, that
For
was planned
sure.
out, not by the team, by him. That was
Yeah.
him who was like, let me play up to this point to be eligible, and then I'll sit. So fuck you, Damian Lillard, for still on my third team.
Fuck you, Damian Lillard.
But he probably would have been on. Maybe not the first team, but he at least would have been second team if he played out the year. I think I had him on my first team at one point.
Yeah, no, I mean like monster efficiency and like just kind of his best season, and I mean not on his best team ever. So take it how you will, but Steph was kind of the runner up, and obviously kind of a less than desirable or what we'd expect from Steph. And then Ja also, I thought had an amazing season, but he flaunted a gun at a strip club. So
Yeah, that took him off my list. I was like, you just can't be on my list if your team suspends you for being an asshole. Like you
literally,
just know.
you know, you could do
Okay.
worse. He's done worse things, but
Any other
yeah.
special shout outs you want to give before you give the last couple of spots?
Special shout out to. No, I don't think so.
Okay, then give me your last guys.
I did have like a short list, but I think Steph and Joe were kind of the main ones. Okay, fuck. Okay, I think this is 100% a little bit of Frog's bias here, but I don't give a fuck. My
That means I definitely don't
third
have them,
team
but go
guard.
for it.
Yeah, no, you don't. Is Jalen motherfucking Brunson.
I like that. I'm okay with that. He was kind of on like my special shout outs list, so I'm with it.
Yeah, and he's not going to make an All NBA team. He's not going to make the All NBA third team. But I think he's deserving. I think, his counting stats aren't, they're not super comparable to, even Steph or Ja, but like the guy took the Knicks from, I mean, they were 59% with him, 50 without, and they were 37 and 45 last year. Like the guy came in and he was the perfect fit. He plays unselfishly. He's incredibly efficient everywhere on the floor. I love Jalen Brunson so much, and I think he's just deserving of the award 100%. He's made the Knicks into a very legitimate team,
Yeah, people are scared of them in the playoffs. They're like an actual team. They're not a joke this year.
and Pete, my bracket, I think they're up. Well, I don't know if you could say upsetting, but I think I might be the only one with the Knicks. I think their offense is super legit. I think they have the pieces defensively, and
Yeah, and it's big news that Randall's playing game one also, because originally speculation he was going to miss time.
yeah, I saw that like not a couple
Maybe
hours.
maybe as a big Brunson fan, you're kind of banking on Randall missing time. I don't know.
I wouldn't super mind it, but speaking of Randall, he is actually also on my third team. I thought the
Ooh,
forwards
he was also on like my like barely miss, but like I think you can make the argument for him.
and I would be happy to replace him with LeBron. I think he was it was him or LeBron for that third team, and I was kind of just I wanted to bring
Julius
some
Randle
stuff.
just like disgusts me. It's my problem though. When I watch him play basketball, I'm just like, what the fuck am I watching? Like every time I see him take like a step back three with his like weird lefty release, I'm like, this just like no, just like stop, Thibodeau. Like, do not let him do this. Please have him give it to someone else. But
Yeah, I
but who's he
agree.
gonna give it to? Is he gonna give it to Barrett, who's gonna do the exact same thing? I don't know. So maybe it's fine.
No, and to his credit, like his handle for his size, incredible. His shot creating is awesome. It's a bit too much. It's not super efficient, and he could just bully his way to the rim, but he'd rather just take a step back, fade away at this point, which can be a tough watch. But fuck it, Randall.
Cool. And
His stats in front of me, but they.
yeah, save me your last spot. I can tell we're running out of time here. We're gonna part two this. So
Okay.
part one, we'll break it into two blocks. It'll make it a little bit easier for the listeners too, because it's a long pod for this award show.
Part two
So
will be behind a paywall. You have to subscribe to
yeah, like and
the.
subscribe. Also make sure to subscribe to Paul's channel.
Yeah.
There you go. Get around too.
All right, what's up, fans? Time for the highly anticipated part two with Paul Coudray. We're finishing off rattling through our all NBA teams. I believe we left off with the final spot of Paul's third team. So thank you for coming on again. So we can wrap this up.
Yep. I'm super happy to be back. And thank you for tuning into part 2, everyone. And special shout out to those who enjoyed episode or part 1. I think it was Sean. Sean was the only one who gave us a comment.
Yeah,
But
shout out to Sean.
yeah.
Yep, and shout out to anyone who got this far, got past the paywall. That's huge. We appreciate your patronage.
Yeah. We appreciate the $5 subscription and the dedication. But without further ado, so quick recap: Brunson, Lillard, Randall, Sabonis, and my last one, I had said no LeBron. My last one was Lowry.
Lauri Markkanen.
Lauri Markkanen. I gave him the shout.
He is also on my third team.
Yeah, so incredible season, crazy efficient. I think he shot like 40% from 3. Shit, I don't know. I feel like the forwards, it was kind of
the forwards did feel a little bit thin this year because so many people missed time. But I thought Lowry was a good pick. Like I thought I was gonna come on here and have to defend putting Lauri Markkanen on my third team, but he just had like an insane season. Like he was an all-star, averaged 26 and 9. Going into the season, everyone had Utah Penn as the worst team in the league by a mile. And they were legitimately like pretty good because Markkanen was incredible. And they probably would have been a playoff team if they didn't like tank those last 10 games of the season. But they were super good. And like even with the tanking, like I still felt like Markkanen played a lot of the season. I think he still got like high 60s in games, which is pretty good. He was just really impressive.
That's a case where like that was the team kind of stepping in and screwing him over, unlike Lillard, who I think was happy to stop at 58. Lowry, they could have made a more legitimate playoff push, and he, man, they're a good team. They have some pieces and they need to keep building. But yeah, Lauri Markkanen, I think he might show up again in another award we have to discuss. But
Feels
that was my last spot. I snubbed LeBron, so it was okay to put him in. And yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a good pick. And now he's going off to serve in I believe the Finnish army for this summer.
Yeah.
So who knows, maybe he can get like a Medal of Valor there and add to his trophy case.
Mandatory conscription when you're a small country.
Yeah, I would like to think that like if you're making millions of dollars and like really representing your country like that, in the NBA, maybe just let it slide. Maybe don't make him serve in the military. Feels like he's pretty important to the country.
I know, but I mean, it's just like target practice, I think.
Yeah, no, they're not gonna have him do shit.
Like shit, man. We should go on a complete aside about because Finland just like joined NATO, so like maybe Russia will invade them and Lowry will be on the front lines.
Yeah, oh my god, yeah, we can't lose Lowry. We're ready to protest the Finnish government for conscripting him to their ranks.
No, I'm sure he'll be like last line of defense.
It'll be very cushy. He's not gonna be doing jack shit.
He'll be a sniper.
Love it.
It's okay. The complete aside. I'm sorry, but
go for it.
In South Korea, it's also mandatory. So I'm pretty sure like all the K-pop stars and like
oh my god,
Son, the Tottenham soccer player who's like insane. He was just glad to do.
Yeah, he's amazing.
So yeah, let's count our blessings here for a second that we aren't forced to go in it.
Yeah, I like it. Equality. No one's above it.
Yeah, that's anyway. You want to take me through your third team, kind of?
Yeah.
Remind me. So you have Lowry, Sabonis, Lillard.
Yeah, so we had a lot of crossovers. So I've got 2 spots left. So and these last 2 spots were really hard to pick because they were areas where it's almost like it did somehow feel like we were running out of options because there were so many stars who just like didn't have super romantic seasons.
Yeah.
So at the other guard position, I put in Anthony Edwards, who I thought had a really good season, especially considering that Karl Anthony Towns was missing so much of it. He just balled out. Like he immediately, took the reins as the best player on that team, during a season where, Cat was, appeared to be the number 1 option. He's an all-star, averaged 25 and 6, super athletic, super fun to watch. Very clear up-and-coming superstar on that team. I just had to give him a shout out there. I wish the T-Wolves were a little bit better. That would be the only reason why I would, maybe reconsider a pick like this. But he's just such a talent, and you can tell immediately when you watch.
I love that pick, and he doesn't miss games. And
Steals machine too on the low key.
yeah, respect. I didn't expect. I had a feeling it might have been Harden, who we haven't given a shout out to. I think we
Yeah,
talked going to be Jar Steph, but yeah, Ant. I kind of forgot about him. He kind of went poor Ant. He kind of always goes under the radar, even for like the all.
totally. And I thought it was absolute blasphemy that he wasn't like an absolute lock for the All Star game because the All
Yeah,
Star he had to get in off an injury, and same with Fox. When I thought they had an argument to legitimately start.
very true. Yeah, I forget. Yeah, it's just
The
the
voters are always really bad
yeah,
about acknowledging the young guys. They're always so quick to be like, "Oh, Steph Curry. Like I know that name. He has
yeah.
to be a starter." And it's like he's just like the other guys have been better this year. They've just been straight up better.
Yeah, no, shout out Ant. I love that pick. I think yeah, no, I
Yeah,
love
and
it.
and you gave Harden that little shout out too. He would have been on my fourth team if there were one. Kind of feels
Yeah,
weird leaving him off because he absolutely got snubbed for the All-Star game. I thought he
yeah.
absolutely should have been an All-Star. I thought it was crazy that he wasn't. Like he's still having a really good season.
Yeah, no,
Um,
like way less. His usage is like down. Obviously, Embiid is the main guy, but he's been efficient. The passing is incredible. So yeah, for once, shout out James Harden. You didn't like totally annoy me with how you played this season, but
yeah, I thought it was close between him and Edwards. I decided to go with Edwards, but I think the voters are going to go with Harden, which is going to be weird because it means he's not going to be an All-Star this year, but he's going to make All NBA. Which
yeah,
shouldn't happen in theory, but the voters kind of dropped the ball for the All Star game.
I think it will probably be Steph. I don't know the way
Oh,
like
you're right. You're right. Because the voters love Steph. You're
the
right.
way Lowe is talking about it. He's like it's a write-in for like the second team even. So like
Yeah. No, you're probably right about that. You're right. Your heart probably won't make it. Yeah, people just love Steph. That's so annoying. Okay. All right. Well, I've got one last spot.
yeah,
It is a Cavaliers player,
I
and
know exactly who it
and
is.
and it's a forward spot, so you can probably figure out who it is. But it's Evan Mobley, who I think had an insane season. I know was also a big time All Star snub, so kind of like weird having him here when he's not in the All Star game, but really picked up the pace on the offensive end. I feel like he can do everything, and I think he's sneaky, like could be the best defender in the league. So I thought he was a pretty easy guy to slot in here.
Yeah, again, kind of someone that admittedly went under my radar, but I think he might be the best defender in the league. That could be some foreshadowing for the defensive player of the year talk. But yeah, man, Mobley is incredible and as good of a perimeter defender as he is inside. He's so switchable.
Yeah, and I mean he's
Maybe a bit left to be desired, I feel like, when it comes to shooting, but it's
yeah,
getting there. It's
yeah, he
getting
still looks great out there though, and he's such a good fit in the Cavs offense. He just feels like one of the most well-rounded players in the league. And it's insane that he's there at this age. Like at this point, I think he's officially, a perennial all-star. I just think it's one of those things where the voters didn't quite realize that he had made that leap until
yeah.
maybe they already got their ballots in. But I think it's evident now.
I think because of how well he played his rookie season, there was kind of this illusion that he had taken a step back almost when in reality, like, no, he's way better of a defender. I think his bag is deeper. It's just that team got far deeper and like Mitchell, demands a lot of that offense.
Yeah.
I like it, man. I like it. I I might just scratch out Randall and put fucking Mobley because I like him so much more than I do Randall.
Yeah, and I think Randall's also very deserving. And I think with you having two Knicks players, it is one of those things where the Knicks were so good this year to where they probably do deserve to have one player make all NBA. So
Right.
I like getting one of their guys in there, especially because like the Cavs
Two
are
is pushing
in
it.
there. So you can make the argument for it, but I just like Mobley better. And if I was just like kind of doing a side by side of which player I would rather have on my team,
Oh
I
my
will
God.
always pick Evan Mobley over Randall, and so will anybody else. So that was kind of my deciding factor.
Yeah, no, Mobley he's been a pleasure to watch, and I've tuned into a fair amount of Cavs games because of my boy Mitchell, and Mobley is very very good, and it's crazy because he plays next to Jarrett Allen, but I think he's the better defender, and like he's so switchable, so versatile, and I think he's like 21, so
Yeah, the Cavs are very good. Like to kind of forecast, some of my playoff predictions. I think the Cavs are just a stellar team. I think Jared Allen and Mobley just make for an insane defense. Mitchell's also been really good on defense, and then the offense feels so unstoppable. Then with Mobley and Jared Allen in the pick and roll, and then you have Mitchell and Garland shooting the lights out. And Garland, I think legitimately could be the most underrated player in the league. He is such a good shooter. His
Yeah.
handling is ridiculous. He's sneaky one of the best passers in the league too. I think he probably averaged like 8 assists a game this season. Probably would have been more if Mitchell hadn't joined the team. I think he'd put up near Steph Curry numbers if he was playing without Mitchell. But he just took not like a step back this season, but he's willing to be the number 2 guy behind Mitchell this season, which suppressed his numbers a little bit. But I think he's incredible.
And he tries on defense, surprisingly. He buys into the system and he's not like a total liability. Like with him and Mitch, they're both, I don't know, like 6'1", 6'2", but that's the best defense in the league. Like they're buying in and I think they play well. So yeah, shout out Garland. He passes the eye test with flying colors. And I don't love my Knicks pick, but I think they're also a very good offense. And we'll see.
Yeah, well, I think a big factor in that season is what the Cavs lack is depth because they have those insane first 4.
Yeah.
But who's their 5th best player? Like maybe it's Karis LeVert, who's like a decent 6th man, but after that we get into like Chetty Osman and like Isaac Okoro, and I'm like, God, like they are probably negative basketball players. Like they probably wouldn't see any minutes on a team like the Bucks or the Celtics. So that could be, what hurts them down the stretch. But if they can kind of cover for those, and like stagger Mitchell and Garland to cover for those, lesser offensive players, they might be able to skate by without it. But the Knicks have got like quickly coming off the bench who, we'll get to him later in the 6th man of the year conversation, but he's an absolute stud.
Yeah, he's quickly become one of my favorite players. No pun intended.
Felt like that was intended. All right, we're giving away future picks right now. So let's move on. Let's go Depoy. Who do you have? Give me like your Depoy and then maybe your runner up.
Okay. This was honestly this was very close for me. I think it was between my 3 finalists would have been Jaren Jackson Jr., Brooke Lopez, and Evan Mobley.
Also my 3 finalists.
And I think I kind of ruled out Lopez. I was like, I don't think he's even the best defender on his own team. He's kind of an insane inside defender, but
yeah, he might not even be the 2nd best defender on the team, which is crazy because like the Bucks have Giannis and Drew Holiday, who are both freakish defenders. So I think that helps him out a ton.
And he's awesome at the drop back. He's awesome. Like the shot timing is crazy. Shout out to him. And the numbers they're impressive. I think he probably has the best offensive field goal percentage, or no, maybe JJJ does. But I was like, I don't know, just eye test and kind of what I think of as the more versatile defenders, Jaren Jackson Jr. with his monster season and Evan Mobley, kind of how we touched on. And so I kind of lean Mobley, man, just because of maybe the bias of watching him more, but also the minutes and the games played and JJJ being such a fucking foul hog and fouling out like every game. Like if you're sending guys to the free throw lines like that, I don't know. Mobley just seems like the more disciplined defender, leading his team to the better overall defense. And again, JJJ monster, like 3 blocks a game. But not an amazing rebounder, a foul hog again, and
Yeah,
I give it to Mobley. Fuck it.
I'm in agreement. I also had Evan Mobley. So I think you did some good research on your players. I think Jaren Jackson Jr. is going to win the award.
Yeah,
But I think that's just like one from media hype. And 2, because like the media just like loves to look at the counting stats. So they're just like, who blocks the most shots? Oh, Jaren Jackson Jr. has the highest block rate. All right, he wins the award. I'm like, but like the guy missed the first 2 months of the season. So that has to matter to an extent. And then I think the biggest reason why I wouldn't be giving it to him, like he could have skated by missing that time, but he is such a foul machine. Like you have to be able to stay on the court to be the defensive player of the year. But if you're averaging 4 fouls a game, you can't play. Like he's like I feel like half the time he plays like 20 minutes a night because he just has 4 fouls by halftime. And you
Literally.
can't rely on that. Like you can't and you're also and they're bad fouls too. Like they give away free points. Like that many fouls like not only takes him out of the game, but it gives the other team free points. And I think you were right to mention that Mobley's far more disciplined. Also feels like he's got more versatility with the way that he can defend on the 3-point line as well. And you're also right to call out that the Cavs had the best defense this year. And Jared Allen certainly also a factor in that, having two of the best defensive big men in the league. But Mobley also led the league in I believe it was defensive efficiency. So that's just like another advanced stat to show you that Evan Mobley was the biggest contributor on that end for that team.
Yeah, I also have that he was first in contested 3-point percentage, which an incredible stat. 9th in total minutes, 6th in total blocks, and again, the best defense in the league. Jaren Jackson Jr. definitely had some nice accolades, but mainly being the opponent field goal percentage being the lowest at 43%. But if you're fouling them half the time, that doesn't count.
Yeah.
They're getting points, but yeah, their field goal percentage isn't going to go up. So
Yeah, and funny enough, someone else who I was, and by the end of the season they had no chance to the award, but halfway through the season, I think Nick Claxton had a decent case for it because I believe halfway through he was leading the league in blocks. The Nets defense was like surprisingly pretty good, and he was also a rebound machine. So he
yeah,
felt like a strong case. But then after they made the Durant and Kyrie trade, they dropped his minutes a lot, so he was just like wasn't seeing the same playing time. The Nets weren't as good. The defense wasn't as good because the team got a lot younger, so he fell off the page there. But I thought he had a pretty good season, so I'll give him a mini shout out. I think in the future he could be in this conversation.
him and Embiid, I was also kind of looking at
Yeah,
defensive stats. They would probably be 4 and 5, Claxton 4, Embiid 5, but
yeah,
yeah, really deserve that shout out.
yeah. And Embiid is also, he's a big body in the paint, and he emphatically blocks shots. Like he demolishes people in the paint. So it's like not only is he playing great defense, but I think he's also such a demoralizing player to go against. So
Yeah,
I think it's a great shout out as well. He also had a phenomenal defensive season.
seems like his focus was on offense, and like so be it. Like monster offensive season, MVP season. So, but yeah, an incredible defender as well, and so definitely worth the shout out. So that's funny. We're in agreement that Mobley. I kind of had a feeling because you like Mobley. I think you've given him his flowers.
Yeah, we know ball, I guess.
Yeah, we know ball, and yeah. So maybe I'm not biased towards the Frogs, and this is proof because JJJ. But he would piss me off, man. I would be
Yeah.
like, he had like 70 fantasy points, but then I like check, he's got 5 fouls, not playing the rest of the way. I'm like, fuck you, man.
Yeah, and I think Jaren Jackson Jr. will get this award at some point in the future. I think
I
he has to clean up the fouls eventually. He's still very young.
yeah,
When is that going to happen? Not sure. We'll see. But I think he'll get this award eventually.
I think he's gonna get it this year. In all honesty,
Fair point.
I see kind of the narrative and he's the steals and blocks leader, blah blah blah. But I would
Yeah.
be surprised, right? I don't think Mobley is getting much. I don't know. I
No,
guess
I literally hadn't heard anyone mention Mobley in this
it's more
discussion. Till
Lopez,
now.
and Jay.
The Lopez talk I just don't understand. I'm like I kind of get it. Like, yeah, he's having a good defensive season, but like we're not talking like 35-year-old Brook Lopez to be defensive player of the year, are we, guys? Like, come on.
No.
Great
Like,
season though. Like no offense, Brook, but you just
did you
can't
know
be that way.
he and Robin Lopez are identical twins?
Yes.
We're moving
Yeah.
on.
The only reason I knew that is because like for some reason I was looking at draft classes recently and I saw that they're in the same draft class. So I was like, huh, I guess they're twins. And then you asked that question like the next day.
Fuck. All
And I
right.
think and I think Brook was of course taken first, but they were taken very close in the draft.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw pictures of them when they were younger, and like you can't tell them apart.
they're like very different now. All right, we're going to MIP.
Transition. MIP. Okay. You want to lead the way? Who are
Sure.
your
I think we're both aligned with who's winning this award.
Interesting.
I had Lauri Markkanen winning it. I thought the turnaround he had from being a bench player on the Cavs last year to an all-star, and I have him making all NBA was a huge turnaround.
Yeah.
Being up to like 26 points per game and 9 rebounds was ridiculous for someone who's a bench player last season. So I thought it was pretty easy to give it to him, but I thought there were other guys who could have made a case. I thought Jalen Brunson could make a case. The only thing about Brunson though is like I feel like he's always been this good. He just got more opportunity now.
Right.
And then someone else I had in there was Nick Claxton, because a lot of people thought Nick Claxton kind of sucked last season. Like people were like, God, like the Nets need to find another answer at center. Nick Claxton's really not good enough to be playing all these minutes. And then like this season, he legitimately came on as probably a top 10 center and one of the better defenders at that position in the league. So I gave him a little bit of consideration too, but I thought it was pretty easy to pick Markkanen here.
Well, I wasn't as convinced, and there's a name you didn't even mention, but I think SGA really deserves, a good look.
He's too good. He's too good to be MIP.
Yeah, I guess so. But I mean, man, if you make the jump to a first teamer to someone that from, I don't know, a guy that was kind of just considered a good player to now, I mean, this guy is a superstar. Like that's improvement. And I did kind of lean Lowry, but I think he's also someone that like last year he was really not good on the Cavs, but there were seasons prior where he was a bit better. And like I kind of looked at his season from 2020, 2021, like, he was averaging 20 points, shot 40% from three, like 7.5 rebounds. He's averaging 7 more points now, a couple more rebounds, but like, I don't know. I think there's also kind of a case to be made where Lowry, his situation benefited him a ton. And the situation on the Cavs was so bad. And like, he was considered one of the best prospects not so long ago. And
Yeah, I don't know, but like the Bulls straight up let him walk, which I think shows not only what like the Bulls thought of him, but what scouts in the league thought of him. And people just thought he was done. Like, yeah, he had a really good sophomore season. Then he had some injury struggles. Seemed like maybe that sophomore season was a fluke and just the result of the Bulls roster being barren. They were trash that season. So
right.
goes to Cleveland, can't get the minutes on Cleveland. I feel like everyone had him ruled out. And then he's thrown into the Donovan Mitchell trade, but he didn't even feel like the big piece in the trade. It felt like Sexton was the big guy. Because when they made the move, it was like Sexton and picks, and then they immediately extend Sexton to a 4-year, $80 million deal. We don't hear anything about Lowry during the offseason. It's really all about Sexton and the picks. And then all of a sudden, Lowry just explodes coming into the season. Efficiency's way higher. I was looking at stats a second ago. He was averaging like 14 points per game the last like 3 seasons, then jumped up to 26 this year. So
Yeah.
huge increase in scoring and efficiency. And SGA, I like the shout out because it is true that he made a huge leap. But when I'm doing most improved, I think it's a great time to look for guys who really had to pull themselves out of the mud and turn around their careers a little bit. And so like SGA, I feel like they've already gotten their flowers. So I feel like they almost don't need most improved. Whereas, some of these other guys we're talking about were guys who, had been counted out. People had, started not to like them as much and, they really turned around their careers.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very good point, that the award kind of comes with this idea that the player had kind of been a bit down on their career, and then it's kind of a bounce back versus just like an improvement from one year to the next. So
Yeah.
I do Lowry, agreed. But in the offseason, he was balling for Eurobasket, I think.
That is true.
Hopping off for Finland. But it is insane, to think that Sexton was like the big appeal of that trade package, and now you've got this like 7-foot sniper who's averaging like 27 points on his per 36, like he shoots 40%, 10 rebounds. Like these are all per 36, by the way. But yeah, the guy is a bona fide stud, and he puts people on posters like it's his mandatory military service.
Hell yeah. Yeah, it's just another great Danny Ainge movie. Probably knew what he was getting, so not too bad. All right, cool. Anyone else you want to shout out for most improved before we do six man?
No, those were my four guys: Lowry, SGA, and then Claxton and Brunson, kind of on the outside. But
Sweet. All right, let's do six man. I think there's kind of a two-man race, and I think it's probably going to be a sweep for the winner. But give me your pick.
my pick is actually Brogdon, and
Oh, all right. Maybe it's not gonna be a sweep. Maybe it's not gonna be
yeah,
a sweep. Okay.
and it's maybe I'm being cheeky, but I was like, you know what? Quickly, stats are inflated from when he starts. Like when he starts, he pops the fuck off. But as a bench player, he's just objectively not as good as when Brogdon comes off the bench. They both average 26 minutes when they come off the bench, but Brogdon averages 15 to Quickly's 12, a little over 4 rebounds to Quickly's a little under 4 rebounds, 3.7 assists to Quickly's 2.9, and then 48, 44, 87 versus 44, 35, 80 for Quickly. So I said, fuck it, Brogdon, when he comes off the bench, Quickly, he had those monster games where he started and inflated his points per game and everything. Brogdon, I'm being a purist, but as a sixth man, as a guy coming off the bench, I think he was objectively better.
I think that's a good take. That's a take that could almost even persuade me to move my pick to be Brogdon. Because you're right. If you take away a couple of those 40 bombs that Quickly had when he was starting, you're probably not looking at 15 points per game. Probably closer to 12 or 13. But the reason I went with Quickly is because he really fits the bill of that spark plug off the bench. And he had huge scoring outbursts when he was starting, but he also had like some huge games off the bench where he single-handedly won games for the Knicks just by dropping 30 off the bench against the other team. And that just feels like such a staple of being the sixth man of the year, like really being someone to steal games when the starters don't have it. So that's why I decided to give it to Quickly. It wasn't so much about the stats because the stats are so comparable between Quickly and Brogdon. I think you probably could take your pick there, but I was just feeling Quickly. I thought he's had an awesome season.
Yeah, no, and Quickly's been incredible. I love how he plays, and he feels, yeah, he kind of like fits the bill more, and I think he's like almost more.
They don't have to. It doesn't have to be about like who fits the bill the best.
But I took it very literally, and Brogdon, he also played 7 more games off the bench than Quickly did, and again, the numbers were slightly better. So hey, but I think Quickly will pull it out. That would be my prediction of who's going to get it, but I think my vote would have gone to Brogdon.
I like it. I like it. This it seems like this vote tends to be closer than I expected it to be. So I like that take.
Yeah, I've seen. I think it will be very close. I've seen people make both arguments on Twitter, so we'll see.
All right. Then give me we have one left, kind of a throw in. Who's your clutch player of the year? Everyone's favorite award, the most prestigious that is given out at the end of the season. Who do you have?
Arguably more important than MVP, the clutch player of the year
So.
is really like, I couldn't even tell you what the trophy looks like. Anyone that's ever won it, I can't tell you. But I don't know. It's De'Aaron Fox. I mean, I did a little bit of research, but like everything kind of points his direction. And I remember the some of the clutch shots he made. Like yeah, I don't know. I don't even have anyone else that I think could be in really contention.
Yeah, like I just pulled this up right now for fun. Like you want to look at like, clutch points per game, which is like a little bit of an arbitrary stat, but it's like Fox is like the first notable name. He's only behind Delano Banton, McKinley Wright, and Kemba Walker, who definitely have not played enough in the clutch to actually qualify for this award. So yeah, I think it's De'Aaron Fox's, and he also hit a couple very notable game winners throughout the season. And really, I think that's who this award is going to be for. Like, if you just hit a couple cool game winners, I will give you this award. Like last season, it probably would have been, and this person's actually right behind De'Aaron Fox in clutch points this season. But DeMar DeRozan had a bunch of buzzer beaters last season and probably would have taken this award. But this is the first time that it is being given out. I think it's another one of just like the brand new like glass trophies that they created. But yeah, first time ever for this award. So I think De'Aaron Fox will be the first winner of this. But you know, DeMar DeRozan like maybe would be like the second place person here just because he's second in clutch points. But I don't know. I think Fox is going to get it, and I don't think there's a huge discussion around it.
As someone that had DeMar DeRozan on my fantasy team, there were so many situations where going into the fourth quarter, the man had like 30, 40 points. And then I check again and he's ending the game with like 80, 90, 100. So he turns it up in the fourth quarter. Maybe not as many memorable like clutch shots, but yeah, the guy lives for the fourth quarter. I mean, he's really good. So
yeah, he's got a really good game for when the basketball games turn into just like this like slow, grinded out possessions in a tight game when people are playing relentless defense. DeMar's got a great game for it, just with his post fade, and he's got really crafty moves. Gets the free throw line really well. So mini shout out to him, but giving it to Fox.
Fox, first time winner of the Clutch Award. Is it named after someone? Like is it the Michael Jordan?
I don't know. Probably. Let's just name it after De'Aaron Fox since he's the first winner of it. So from now on, this is what the award is known as.
The Fox Clutch Player Award. I like it.
There you go. First time winner. Okay, cool. That's all the major stuff we had to run through, but I think we'll go through another time and do our all defensive teams maybe. We can also do Coach of the Year. Do you have any throwouts for Coach of the Year before we wrap this up? I threw down Taylor Jenkins, who's the Grizzlies coach, because they lost a lot of players. They had to play without John Morant for a couple of games after his strip club gun incident. But the Grizzlies ended up being really good and took second in the West, which I thought was pretty impressive again. So he's a great coach. They run a great system over there. I decided to give it to him, but I think you could probably also give it to the Nuggets coach if you wanted.
Right. I'm blanking on the name, but the Kings coach. I feel like most people have him.
Oh, Mike Brown? Yeah, I think Mike Brown is also a really good take. They had such a good turnaround this season.
I wrote Mike Brown. I can't pronounce the OKC's coach's name, Mark Daigneault, I think.
No one knows how to pronounce it.
And JB Bickerstaff, the Caps coach. All incredible seasons. I don't really.
Well, you got names then. Who are you going with as your final pick? Are you doing Mike Brown?
Yeah, I was just saying Mike Brown. I mean, he seems to be the guy leading the charge for the award. I think he has a good team, and it's like I think it's less surprising when you realize how good of a player Sabonis really is.
Yeah.
Fox, incredible season. But like you said, Grizzlies coach Jenkins, right?
Yep, Taylor Jenkins.
Incredible adjustments and like Brandon Clark and some of the younger guys coming up and
like Steven Adams' injury, that was a big loss for them. But
right.
They've stayed amazing and they really surged at the end of the season with a ton of missing pieces. So I decided to give it to him, but I'm also a big time Kings truther. So I don't know. Tomorrow I might have go with Mike Brown, so who knows? But
Kings in 7. I put Golden State.
I of course have the Kings, but we'll do a playoff preview another day. But
I know. I'm saying we have 1 minute left, so
yeah. All right, we'll do our wrap up then. Thanks for coming on for the award show, Paul. It's been a pleasure. We'll run it back another time soon, maybe for some playoff previews or something like that. But thanks for coming on. The fans love you.
Always glad to join, even though it was my first time, but that's always what the low guests say. And I'm sorry I said that Doncic was Serbian. I'm sorry to the Serbian people. That's Jokic. He's Slovenian.
Yeah, as if they hadn't, experienced enough pain after
bombings.
Night was an absolute disaster when the Mavs sat everybody and took Luka out after the first quarter. So thank you for publicly apologizing to them. I'm sure they will take it well. And congrats on the championship.
Can't wait to be back on.
All right. Take care, folks.